everyone, this is Jack Literary Corner. I am Jack, or Jackie. The only reason I still have not changed that name is because I'm worried that I'm going to get a notification via Google. They're going to be like, okay, you can't change your name anymore. So I just keep it at Jack Literary Corner. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about something that's not literature, but is another form of storytelling. It's one of my favorite TV shows of all time, maybe not of all time, but it was one of my favorite TV shows from when I was growing up, and that is Are You Afraid of the Dark? Which was a Nickelodeon show. This is basically a show where a group of kids, 5 kids, gather together in a secret spot and tell scary stories by the campfire, at night. And you not only are they telling you the stories, but you actually get the story played out for you, like a little mini movie, like a TV show, like an episode of a TV show. But it's a different story every week. With sometimes the same cast members. There's a couple of recurring characters on the show, and a couple of the adult actors you see multiple times in multiple episodes, and even some of the kid actors, because it is a kid show. And another thing that's really cool is that you kind of get a subplot of the Midnight Society, the kids that are telling the story. Like, they talk about what's going on with them at school, their personal relationships with each other. And there's a sort of camaraderie, I probably did not say that right, between them. And there's also, some of the characters are attracted to each other and are secretly dating, and one of the characters, we get a little, where he lost his grandfather, so the story he told that night was inspired by his grandfather and in his honor. And there's, sometimes the friends have fights, and then the story is kind of inspired by that, and then sometimes by the end of the story, they're like, oh, I'm sorry and everything, because it's also, it's about good values and teaches you about friendship. But it's also kind of inspired by, how the original Grimm's fairy tales, and not just in Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales, kind of were taught kids lessons in a very brutal and harsh way. Like kids getting eaten by the Wicked Witch, which is don't go in the woods, don't trust strangers. Trying to think of what's another lesson, or don't take people for granted. And, appreciate what you have. Those kind of lessons. And some of them end happy and some of them don't, which I like. I like how some of them do end happy and they defeat the antagonist and the protagonist wins. But I also like the stories where the protagonist might not necessarily win. Or it's the ending is a little ambiguous and you're like, is it really over? Is the bad guy really gone? Or maybe they're going to come back. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite episodes. I'll give you a brief summary, it probably won't be really brief, but I will try to give you a brief summary of my favorite episodes, but this will probably be split into several videos. And like I said, I'm talking about this on here because this is storytelling, and that's what books are. They're stories being told, but they're told in written format. This is being told like a movie or a TV show. So it's still the same kind of thing, just a different way of telling the story. So I will start, and I don't know if this is the order of my favorite episodes or just the ones that popped in my head over time as I make these videos. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a classic. And it was the second episode in the series, which is funnily, the very first episode they had was apparently not as well received, but they didn't come back with the second episode. And the second episode is basically about the one thing that a lot of kids are afraid of, and that is clowns. The classic clown story. But because this is a kids-friendly show, the clown it's not like It, where it's really gruesome and really, it's creepy, but it's not like you're gonna see a kid get eaten or stabbed or something, there have been episodes where we see kids get eaten, but you never really see you don't see the blood, or you don't hear the screaming or anything like that. Like, apparently there's a Goosebumps episode / book with the Blob, and that the Blob would eat people. So it's kind of a little Shop of Horrors thing going on. And there's also another episode that I really love, Army for the Dark, that kind of has a similar little Shop of Horrors type story. In that episode, the episode is called The Tale of Laughing in the Dark, told by Mary Beth. She tells a lot of gruesome stories, a lot of scary, very gruesome stories, which are like some of my favorites. So, you have 3 main characters. You have Ouija, and yes, his name is actually Ouija. His parents must have been hippies. And this is not the only character that has a really weird name. Ouija and his little sister, whose name escapes me at the moment. I mean, I just watched the episode a few days ago and I don't remember her name. And his best friend Josh. So they're hanging out at Playland, which is the theme park in this world, this universe. It's really fun and everything. And they decide to check out the spook house. But Ouija and his sister are a little reluctant to go into the spook house because they hear that it's haunted and there are a lot of weird stuff. But Josh, the little punk that he is, decides, you know what, you're being stupid. It's supposed to be scary. It's a spook house. So he decides, you know what, just because you guys are too scared doesn't mean I'm not going to go in and check it out. But then he gets stopped by the doorman, this mysterious man that is like dressed like old-fashioned carnival guy. And he kind of, the things he says makes Josh a little reluctant, not that he would admit it, to go in. And there's a little rhyme that he says, which is, what is it? I don't want to get it mixed up with other rhymes for other stories. It's so much fun in the park. So much more fun in the park when you're laughing in the dark, or something like that. Like it's kind of like the one in the little rhyme in Dead Silence. You know, beware the Sarah Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. I forgot. But anyway, I don't want to waste time on that. So the next day, Ouija and his sister decide to do a little research, and they find out that the spook house was not the first spook house that was there, and there was a clown called Zebo, who he really liked cigars apparently, and he decided to steal the company's payroll and goes running into the funhouse and gets caught in the and he drops his cigar and the funhouse catches fire and he dies inside the funhouse. And that was in 1924, and it is believed that it's still haunted by the ghost of Zebo's spirit. And there is a dummy at the end. Like, there is a room of doors, and in one of the doors, there is a dummy of Zebo. So, Josh still thinks it's kind of stupid. They're all scared. And then they're like, and Ouija's like, you know what? I dare you to go in there. If you're so brave, why don't you go in there? And he's like, fine, I'll go in there. And I will steal the Zebo's nose at the end of the ride, and then when I come through, I'll give it to you, and you have to wear it at school for a week. So that night, Josh goes in there, and he's a little spooked because it is a little creepy. And I was never too keen on spook houses anywhere, fun houses. I don't like my 2 experiences in them. I was really I was just trying to get through it. Like the first time I went into one, it made it worse because the guy behind me, the little punk behind me, decided to stick his hand in my pants. And he was using that as an excuse to touch me and do that. It's like, what the hell? And of course, I couldn't look behind me, and then I don't know I wasn't paying attention. I just wanted to get out of here. But anyway, and then the other time, it was just a little creeped out. Like, it was just the generic, freaked out about it. But anyway. So then he finally, after going through the spook house, and there's the eerie music, and there's moments of, he's mocking Zebo, and then Zebo repeats back to him what he said, and, he goes through, and he finally gets to the end, finds the door where he has to leave. He can leave through, but then he's like, he still has to get the nose, so he gets the nose, he like quickly grabs it, and goes running out. And the next thing, so as he's leaving, you see smoke at the, how some doors, if they don't go all the way to the bottom, you see that little slither at the bottom of a door where you can kind of see through a crack. You see what looks like a pair of feet, right there, the silhouette of feet, and you see smoke, which, that means, maybe Zebo is real. So the next day, Josh, goes back. He's all cocky and confident, and and Ouija is kind of like annoyed and stuff because when someone's rubbing in your face that they beat you, it's like, okay, yeah, you beat me, good for you. So then so all of a sudden, Josh starts experiencing little things, weird things start going on. Like he starts hearing weird noises, smelling cigars. And then he starts getting phone calls by some creepy little voice saying, "Give it back. Give it back." And he even, and he hears all these noises, and then he finds cigars in his microwave instead of his spaghetti, and, he's like, all this weird stuff starts happening, so he's freaking out, and he's actually starting to get really scared. And, they do the little balloon trick of, where the clown sends a balloon through the hole, and, that says, "Give it back." And Zebo continues calling him, and he's, freaking out, and he admits that he's actually scared. So he goes running back to somehow he gets some cigars. I don't know why. He must have stolen from his dad's stash, or maybe back in the 90s, it's a lot easier for a kid to buy cigars. I don't know. I don't remember. And he returns. He's like, to show he's like, "All right, fine, here's your nose. I'm really sorry I stole your nose." And he's like, "And to show no hard feelings, here's some cigars." So Josh leaves feeling much better. And then at the end of the episode, you see the guy at the doorman standing there, and he says the little rhyme that I can't remember, and he's smoking a cigar. And you see a cigar coming out of the mouth of the cardboard Zebo at the top of the building of the funhouse. So I love this episode. That was such a great episode. Clowns freak me out. I hate clowns. Although I had a clown at my 6th birthday party, and my excuse is, I was only 6, and she was a girl. It was a girl clown. But clowns are really creepy, and I think the reason why people hate clowns is, well, besides the whole, what's his name, Ghastly guy being, a serial killer and killing all these people, and having a thing for boys, apparently. I just watched a documentary about that guy. But, is that you don't see their faces. They're covered in this makeup, in this permanent creepy smile. Well, it's not supposed to be creepy, but still, you don't know who's behind all the makeup. It's so weird, and it's so creepy, and their presence and how they're really crazy and stuff it makes you a little, at least for me, it makes me uncomfortable, and it creeps me out. But then, at the same time, I like reading books and watching stories that are about the things that most freak me out. Because that's what scary horror is supposed to do. It's supposed to freak you out. But unfortunately, there's so much horror in the world that some people get desensitized by it. There's so many slasher movies that are made. Of course, I'm personally not a fan of slasher movies. But anyway, first off, what's so great about this episode is that not only is it about one of kids' biggest fears, but it's also, it relies on subtlety. It's not big jump scares or anything like that. It's the subtle things. You see a little bit of, there's a smoke screen, and you see, you never see the clown, except for you see the dummy in the spook house. But you never see the clown. You just hear the clown's voice, and you see a little smoke coming from around the corner that's Zebo's sitting there smoking his cigar. And it's all little things, little touches that are creepy. And that's what makes it so scary. Is you can't see the monster. And that's what a lot of people, even Stephen King, who does not, he's not very good at writing endings, and he even admits that himself, I believe. He says that it's so much scarier when you don't see the monster. It's not something tangible, like an It. Yes, the monster takes multiple forms, but you don't really see what's underneath until the very end of the story. Which is the big disappointment for a lot of people, I think, is at the end, when the end comes. And and the acting is okay, and, so really, and like I said, the ending is so great. I love the ending, because it's like, you're thinking to yourself, wait, what's going on? Is this, like, who is this guy? Was he just terrorizing Josh? Maybe he's Zebo in corporeal form. Maybe he's the ghost of Zebo, and he took on a tangible form. And we don't know what ghosts can really do. I mean, maybe ghosts can have magic or something. Maybe they can take corporeal form. Maybe he's a demon or something. I mean, all we know is at the end of the episode, he was smoking a cigar. Now, maybe he just stole the cigars, but the way he was laughing and stuff, although the problem is you see the smoke coming from the funhouse. Like, the cardboard cutout face on the roof of the spook house is Zebo's face, and you see him, there's a cigar in his mouth, and you see the smoke coming from it. But then, although it's funny that, nowadays they probably wouldn't have gotten away with that, on a kid's show, showing someone smoking cigars. But then again, this is a villain, so, I like how the ending is like, wait, you're questioning things. You're wondering, maybe this guy is actually Zebo? Who knows? And I think some of the best endings are the ones that you don't know. Okay, the next episode I'm going to talk about is one that's actually another scary episode, another kind of clown-like episode, and that is The Tale of the Ghastly Grinner. And for some reason, when I was a kid, this was the one I could never finish. I did end up finishing this as an adult, but for some reason, as a kid, it was too much for me. It was too scary, which, I could finish the other Tale of Laughing in the Dark, but that one, for some reason, I couldn't do it. So this one is about this kid named Ethan who loves comic books. He doesn't just love them, though. He wants to be a comic book artist himself. But, of course, like in any artsy type profession, it's hard to get famous and get published, whether it's a book, or you want to be an actor, or a singer, or some kind of real artist. People like a real artist as in someone who like paints or something, or like sculpts, or draws or something. It's very hard to get into it. So he keeps getting all these rejection letters when he sends in his work. And then he gets this mysterious note from a comic book store inviting him to come by. And so he decides, what the heck, I'm going to check this out. And he gets there, and there's no one there, and there's this woman there who's, she's kind of a tough chick, has funky hair, has the black leather jacket, probably wears probably has piercings here and there, but of course you can't. I don't know if you could actually see piercings on TV. At the time anyway. And she, recognizes him as a kid who she saw his artwork and sees him. He could be as good as the famous Sylvester Uncas. He has such potential, and she wants to help him out. So she gives him this very rare comic book that Sylvester Uncas created, but it was too scary. He never finished it, and then mysteriously he disappeared. So there is only one issue of this comic, because the character in the comic was too scary. And this is the Ghastly Grinner. And it's really, and like what the Grinner will do is that he will just pick you up and stare at you and turn you into and laugh in your face as you slowly become a mindless idiot with blue spit coming out of your mouth. I guess it's kind of like drool, and I always like to think he's like the cousin of the Joker or something. So then he is really getting into the comic, and he's reading it during class, which, I understand a teacher doesn't want you to do that. The teacher wants you to pay attention to what they're teaching you. But what pissed me off about this particular scene was, like, the teacher took the comic book that he was reading even though Ethan insisted it was one of a kind, he throws the damn comic book in the fish tank. What happened to just putting something like that in a cabinet or something, or in a drawer, locking it up in someone's drawer and being like, oh, you can pick this up at the end of the day? I mean, I get, you want the kid to pay attention and not waste your time. But do not destroy someone's property by throwing it in a fish tank. It's still a book. Whether you agree that, I mean, because I admit that one time I didn't take comic books seriously. But now, years later, now that I'm getting more into them, I've come to see them as they are books too. And that just pissed me off that teacher did that. It's like, what the hell? So, Ethan goes back home, and his parents are giving him a hard time because, you know, he was apparently disrupting the class, even though he was just reading his comic book, which, yeah, he shouldn't have been doing that, but still. So, his parents are like, get your head out of the class and stop wasting your time with those silly comic books. And so he gets the smart idea to put his comic book in the microwave. It's like, really? Of course, I'm guessing he was probably thinking it wouldn't be in there that long and he could take it out. But then he gets a call from one of his classmates, Hooper P. Calera, which I think is so funny because every time she runs into him, every time she sees him after they've been separated, she has to tell him her name. Like, her whole name. All 3 names in her name. It's like, I mean, it's really funny actually how, you know. So they're talking on the phone and she's trying to be like, I think what our teacher did was wrong and everything. And then while his mom is cooking pizza bagels, which, damn, they have a lot of plugs, by the way. If you watch the episode, they have a whole bunch of plugs. So his mom decides to cook pizza bagels, and then things blow up. It's like, yeah, what the hell? So Ethan goes right downstairs to check it out, and then he takes in his comic book, which is still kind of intact, except for there's a huge hole on the comic book. And there's a hole in his door shaped like the character, which looks like a jester, by the way. That's why he's kind of like in the clown family. And then his mom shows up and, and then she shows up and her hair is a complete mess. Her face looks dead. And she starts laughing at his stupid joke she made, and the spit comes dripping out. It's blue spit. And she's laughing maniacally, and he's freaking out. Ethan's freaking out, which I don't blame him. I'd freak out too if my mom started doing that. And he goes right and his dad, and then his dad ends up doing the same thing. So he takes off, realizing he started to figure out, okay, something happened. This guy, something is going on here. So he starts freaking out, and Hooper, being worried, being concerned, shows up. And like I said, she says her whole name again, reminds him who she is for some damn reason. And then her parents decide to show up and talk to, spend time with Ethan's parents. And then you hear the sound effects of or the music that applies. What happened to Ethan's parents just happened to her parents. So they take off running, get on the bus. And they start reading. Ethan has admitted that he's realized he thinks he might have brought this character out of his world into theirs. And then what's really creepy is that you see them in the comic book. You see the 2 of them in the comic book. They're taken off. And then, because they're in the comic book, they realize that the bus driver has also been infected. Which is a really comical scene if you watch it. It looks really, like the bus driver is driving really crazily. And then Ethan pulls I can't remember what it's called, the thing you pull when you want to stop really quickly. And the driver, unfortunately, of course, he's forced to stop. And it's just really funny seeing this. I mean, it's one of the most ridiculous episodes, but it's still really creepy. And they take off to go to the comic book store. And they start talking to, and, the woman explains that actually Sylvester Uncas is her father. And that the Grinner got her father. And they try to piece together how to get rid of the Grinner. And just as she's about to tell them, when, Hooper says, oh, well, maybe we can do the microwaves. because that's how he got released. So she's thinking, well, maybe that can put him back. And then just as the woman at the comic book store, who I don't remember if they gave her name or not, just as she's about to tell them, guess what, that won't work. No, that won't work. The only way to beat this guy, the Grinner shows up and we finally meet him. And he's so creepy. And he captures the comic book woman. And Ethan and Hooper go right away. They go to his school thinking, they're going to try the microwave idea. And then their teacher catches them and shows up and is like, what's the meaning of this or whatever? Because, what kid goes to school this late at night at this hour? And then, once again, the Grinner catches them and gets their teacher as well. And so they take off again and they have to go back to the comic book place because they realize that didn't work. The microwave thing didn't work. So Hooper realizes that, wait a second, it won't work here, but Ethan has to finish the comic and then go into the Grinner's world, and that's the only way it will work. So they get to the Grinner shows up again, tries to get Hooper, but for some reason it doesn't affect her. And she admits that she doesn't really have a sense of humor. And because she's a very serious woman. She's like Sheldon, actually. She's like the female version of Sheldon, or Sheldon's girlfriend in Big Bang Theory. So Ethan as quick as he can, before the Grinner can stop, finishes the comic book. And it transports them into the comic book world. Now, unfortunately, you don't get to see the fight or anything. You're not in the comic book. You just hear the sound effects and everything and you see Hooper reading through the comic book sketches. And finally, they are able to, and they, of course, defeat the monster, defeat the Grinner, and everything's all happy and stuff. And Ethan finally makes it into the comics. And he rescues the woman and Sylvester Uncas, and everything lives happily ever after. Now, what I love about this particular episode is, first of all, the makeup. I love the Grinner's makeup. It's so good. It is so creepy. Which is why it's so good, because it's creepy. They did such a good job. And I love how when they make characters have bad teeth. I don't know why, but I love how they make them have, they're able to make it look like they have rotting teeth, which is really cool. And, in shows like this, whether it's fantasy or horror, I would love to be on the set of a show like this, or a movie like this, and just see how they do it. I would love to be on the Gotham set, too, which, technically, that's not fantasy and horror, but it would still be fun to be on the set for that, a similar reason. But it would be so much fun to be on that Are You Afraid of the Dark set. It's so cool, and I would love to know how they do it. Watch the process of them making up the actor to look so creepy and scary. And I also love how, because it's a comic book story, so the transitions and stuff look like a comic book, or something or a cartoon, the Batman animated series. For instance, the transitions between each scene, and you get to see them, I think that's really cool. So, anyway, let me try to get, actually, you know what, I should probably stop right here for now. I know I only covered 2 episodes, unfortunately I take way too long, and this will probably turn into a series of videos anyway. It may, so if you like this video and are interested in, the show, if you like the show Are You Afraid of the Dark, then give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you have not already. And I hope you guys are enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you guys later. Alright, bye!